Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another exciting episode of Leadership and Organizational Development Live, brought to you by TCS Consulting LLC. We always like to welcome those who are also watching replay. Whether you're joining us live or catching that episode later, we are grateful that you're with us. Please introduce yourself in the comments, let us know where you're joining us from, and share your thoughts and questions. That's what we're here for. We read those comments after the broadcast and would love to continue the conversation with you. I am your host, Dr. Robin R. Hughes of R. Hughes and Associates, and I'm delighted to have you join us today as we explore innovative leadership strategies, organizational effectiveness, workplace excellence, and the science behind human performance. Joining me is my esteemed colleague and co-host, Dr. Jacqueline Brown of Revolution Ascension.
Oh,
Dr. Brown.
Hi, thank you so much, Dr. Hughes. It's a pleasure always to be here with you and with the listening audience. And together we are committed to bringing meaningful conversations that empower leaders, strengthen organizations, and inspire individuals to reach their highest potential. Our approach is grounded in the principles of organizational psychology and positive psychology, helping leaders understand how people think, how they perform, how they engage, and thrive within today's ever-changing workplace.
Yes, I want you to know who is in the room with you today. Together, we bring decades of experience in executive leadership, industrial organizational psychology, organizational development, human resources, consulting, coaching, and higher education. Really, the list continues to go on. Look, we don't want to age ourselves, but we've been doing this for a while. Our goal is to bridge research and real world leadership experience. So you leave each of our episodes with practical ideas that you can actually implement immediately.
At TCS Consulting, we believe that great organizations are built by great leaders. Leaders who understand that sustainable success begins with people. Each week, we'll bring practical strategies, evidence-based insights, and real-world solutions designed to help leaders and organizations thrive. Together, we'll explore how leadership, organizational psychology, and human potential intersect to create stronger cultures, higher performing teams, and more effective workplaces. Every week you're here with us, we'll discuss topics designed to help you enhance leadership effectiveness, improve employee engagement and retention, build high performing teams, strengthen organizational culture, increase productivity and performance, develop resilient, emotionally intelligent leaders. Whether you are a CEO, executive manager, entrepreneur, educator, nonprofit leader, HR professional, or an emerging leader, this show is designed with you in mind. You see, our mission is very simple. We're here to equip leaders and organizations with practical tools, evidence-based strategies, and transformational insights that create measurable results.
Yes, we invite you to participate throughout today's broadcast. Please, again, like we said, make sure that you're introducing yourself. And if you're watching on Facebook, LinkedIn, or YouTube, be sure to like, share, and subscribe so you never miss an episode. Now let's dive into today's discussion and discover how the power of leadership, organizational psychology, and human potential can transform workplaces and lives.
Well,
yeah.
Welcome to TCS Live.
Live. Let's get started.
All right, all right, all right.
Yeah, today I know today we're going to discuss psychological safety is not enough. The leader's role in perceived organizational support, which you will hear us refer to the acronym POS. And last week we discussed psychological safety, which we could go on and on about that, and the confidence employees have to speak up without fear of being, negative consequences, retaliation. But here's a question for you today. What happens when employees feel safe to speak up, but they don't feel valued? That's where that's really talking about POS, that perceived organizational support. That's where that comes in. And what we're going to do is, employees they don't want to speak up if they don't feel they have the psychological safety, which plays first. But then if they don't feel like if they speak up and they're not valued, they're not listened to. I always say one of my things I go to is I say, I listen to the voice of my customer. And that customer, you have to know who your customers are. It can be any employee, doesn't matter what level. It could be your vendors. It could be just customers calling in, just trying to give information, but you listen to what they say. You find out, what problems are there so you could try to solve them so you could become better than you were yesterday. So psychological safety is saying, I feel safe speaking up. Where perceived organizational support is, I believe my organization values me and genuinely cares about my well-being. So when we talk a little bit about that, employees often see their direct supervisors at the organization as, sometimes you have, depends on what kind you have. And Jacqueline, Dr. Brown and I are always going to be honest with you, because you have great leaders and you have toxic leaders. And there's really no happy median in that. Is usually one extreme or the other, unless you have that, sometimes you have that leader. And keep in mind, give some of the leaders do deserve grace, because they have just been put in positions because they were in the right place at the right time, and they did not get the training they needed. So you want to give them grace, just like you want to be given grace. So always remember that, because you don't know how they came up through the ranks. And again, if they haven't had time to go in and get that training, or don't have someone mentoring them to help them out, they may not be where they need to be. But that doesn't mean that you accept the toxic leader. So let's be clear on that. We do give grace, but we don't say accept the toxic leader. So that your leader, if they're a true leader, they're going to be listening. They're going to follow through. They're going to show you respect. They're going to recognize your contributions. How many have dealt with leaders that turn around and you do all the work in the background? And as long as that work is not something that's visible to the organization, the leader will allow you to do that. But soon as a project becomes visible and they know the C-suite is going to see it and they can get that recognition, they'll allow you to do the work in the background, but they give you no credit for the work at all. How many people have dealt with that? I think all of us have actually dealt with that. So do you feel valued? Think about POS and what we're talking about. Do you feel valued at that time? What can you share with our audience, Dr. Brown?
Oh, wow. This is just such a good topic. And it's an important one. So I know that our audience will see us, nod in agreement, smile, and sometimes even chuckle. It's because this is lived experience. And it's not that we take it lightly in any way. But when you have experienced this up close and personal, and it is so important that the trust and the dignity and the structure and the emotional maturity, the accountability is there. And when those things are there, actually the leader is going to want to push you forward, because great leaders are leaders that lead themselves right out of their current position, because they are developing leaders to come into their position so that they can go to the next level. Great leaders want to see the organization progress. And when the organization is progressing, and they've got a great succession plan, and they know that, okay, this person is going to be ready in 6 months, this person's going to be ready in a year, this person's not going to be ready for maybe 18 months. And they have plans for all of those individuals throughout those timelines. All of those things are very important. And one of the ways, and you said it, Robin, is giving people exposure. Are you giving employees the exposure that they need at that higher level? And actually promoting them, they may not be ready for the role, but you're promoting them from a sponsor perspective, that when conversations come up, it may not be a promotion in your group, but you are aware of what's happening in the organization, so that you are actually bringing that person in front of other opportunities. These things matter. And they do all tie into psychological safety, because, Robin, as you said, it's not just a workplace issue, but it's really how leaders are governing themselves internally. Wherever people are expected to lead, and we immediately think of corporate in the workplace, but psychological safety, growing people, giving them the exposure, welcoming their ideas, and making them feel comfortable about presenting different ideas. That diversity, that's not just for the corporate workspace. That's for non-for-profits. That's for community advocacy. That is actually, we have a lot of leadership in ministries today. We're in a world where there are huge mega church organizations, the religious in the faith-based community has grown tremendously, where they now have full-blown staff. They have employees. And some ministries and faith-based organizations have very large number of employees. But are you bringing those leaders forward? Are you really building the ones that may not be ready for leadership, but have you made a safe environment for them to share what they may perceive as a different contribution to the organization? Or are you stuck in the status quo? And Robin, I really have seen and experienced where very often in faith-based communities and faith-based organizations, leadership can tend to get stuck in the status quo. Well, this is the way we've always done it, versus looking at a broader picture of where is the world today? What is the world's needs? And just like we know that corporations have to bring shareholder value, we know that objectives and goals start from the CEO down. Well, it's the same thing in a lot of these other organizations. We really have to be willing to see the value, and how we have to, just like any other organization, we have to have our finger on the pulse of what the need is. Some, it's going to be what's the need of the market. And then the organization is going to have a goal to meet that need. Well, what are the goals of the people in today's world? And if we close people off in other types of organizations, mainly faith-based, you know what we're doing? We're actually creating a toxic environment because we're not allowing uh, wisdom, creativity, discernment, truth. And most importantly, we're not allowing courage to come forward by creating an environment where honesty doesn't feel out of place or it doesn't feel dangerous. And I'll pass it back to you, Robin.
Oh, thank you, Jacqueline. You said I'm hoping the audience is listening and taking this in, because definitely shared some nuggets with you. When you talk about, we want to make sure that our leaders are giving employees that toolbox for success.
Mhm.
You have to give them tools so they will be successful. You have to establish SMART goals and make sure that they're obtainable. Because if you give them projects to do and you give them unrealistic or unachievable deadlines, you are setting them up for failure. And guess what? If they fail, everyone fails.
Mhm.
If that person fails, that's a reflection of their leader. If that department fails, that's a reflection of the leader, but also other people in the organization should be pitching in. It's not just that department. Because again, if one person fails, if one department fails, it's almost like the whole organization fails. That doesn't look good. So you come together to meet that common goal where everyone's successful and everyone shines. Because that's what that's what the competition is trying to do. And if the competition can do that and you can't, guess what? They're going to have the advantage over you. You talked about, diversity. When you go in, of course, if you have a more diverse work group, when your workforce is diverse, people bring all different types of ideas to the table. And everyone has something to contribute.
Mhm.
And it shouldn't just be based on a title. It shouldn't just be based on a title. So remember that, when you're talking, you can get your employees, they have to have that trust. That trust is built through consistency. You have to keep your promises. If you tell them you're going to do something, you follow through. You communicate honestly. Don't try. You can be as transparent as you possibly can. I know we can't always share everything, but we can definitely be transparent to a point where they trust us and we are treating everyone fairly.
Mhm.
And you're available during the challenges, because that consistency is going to build that trust.
Yes.
And support is most visible during the difficult times.
Mhm.
Just like now, what we're going through with a lot of the employers doing the layoffs and eliminating jobs and restructuring. This is a time when leaders are really being tested,
Yes.
because employees are going to experience those heavy workloads that, again, usually are not, a lot of times they're not obtainable. And guess what? You might have to be that leader that rolls up their sleeves and get in there and helps people out. They're going to, right now, a lot of people are experiencing personal challenges.
Mhm.
Along with that, these are difficult times. Organizational change, like I just said, different types of mistakes, conflict within the organization, prayerfully not the toxic environment, because that makes it even,
Mhm.
a lot crazier, because when you get to psychological safety, when you're talking, it's hard to leave certain things at the door.
Mhm.
And again, we can talk about spillover too. That's another topic when you get into spillover and what happens in one place and it comes back into your home, or vice versa, it comes into the workplace. Because it's hard to separate right now with everything going on. It's hard to separate that. So we're going to talk a little bit about why POS matters so much. Because when employees feel supported, organizations often experience higher engagement, greater commitment, increased discretionary effort, better collaboration. People are more innovative. They feel comfortable bringing ideas to the table, and they don't feel they'll be made fun of or not listened to, or again, POS, not valued. And that's very important. Usually that helps with higher retention. Employers want to know that's where you get your higher retention from, which impacts your bottom line as an employer. Lower burnout, again, less turnover. So improved performance. Isn't that what organizations are looking for? And believe me, employees would like to have that too, but they have to be valued. They have to be supported. And they will invest in the organizations that invest in them. They invest in that. I'm going to turn it over to you, Jacqueline.
Everything that you're saying is so very critically needed in this time. It's always been needed, but we're living in such a different time. And if we don't really look at how these environments affect the bottom line of whether it's if you're a small business, if you are a small company or a major corporation, the same rules still apply. And environments where people are afraid to be honest, where they are afraid to ask questions, or even if they're afraid to admit struggle, afraid to challenge dysfunction. They may see something that is totally dysfunction. Maybe the leader doesn't see it, but if they are afraid to come forward and talk about it, or just afraid to say, you know what, I'm not okay today. We've taught people to be so non-emotional and show up to work and put on the face and just plow through things. We don't live in that world. It's just, that's not reality. Because at the end of the day, people are going through things. And that doesn't mean that people can drag every bit of their personal life and bring 10 suitcases of baggage to work every day. What it means is that there have to be spaces and places and resources available for them when they are struggling and when they are not okay. And the first thing that people throw out is, well, we have the employee assistance program. We have EAP. They can go and talk to somebody and we pay for it. There is a portion where the leader has to be somewhat connected. Doesn't have to know, because we know these things are confidential, but the leader has to have the perception. The leader has to have the discernment that I need to be doing more to support my employee. They're high performing, and they may be going and getting resources that the company is providing, such as EAP. But the leader, at the end of the day, the leader is spending time with that individual. And there has to be a level of connection with leaders and our organization. We do not need to know all of the personal details. That is none of our business. But there has to be a connection. And see, we've taken inner governance and we've taken words like empathy. We've removed that. And those are still necessary things in leadership. Yes, companies, corporations, businesses, everyone, people are not in business just to give everything away and for things to be free. So we know bottom line matters. We know that there are things that have to be done every single day. At the same time, we still cannot lose the connection. There has to be a connection. And that's really where you see leadership maturity, where things may appear to be silent in the moment, but there is a perception and a connection that you have a sense that that individual needs more support. And today, Robin, I don't mean to pick on faith-based organizations, but for some reason, ministry leaders, they have to understand that psychological safety doesn't mean lowering spiritual standards. It doesn't mean that because you are working in a faith-based organization or a not-for-profit, that it means, well, if I start embracing all of this POS and psychological safety and all of these things, it means that I'm lowering my spiritual standards. No, it doesn't. It means you're increasing the standard. It means that creating an atmosphere where truth can come into light without people being crushed by shame or control or fear or even performance. So it's not making anything about religion, but all organizations. What we are talking about here applies to all organizations. Psychological safety has to also include spiritual integrity.
Mm-hmm.
And when it doesn't, well, listen, we've seen a lot of not so good things that we've seen come out at one point in time of what's going on in these types of organizations. So, Robin, I just think, and I'll close with this. I just think that when we work with vulnerable communities, I think community advocacy, when we're in those working in those organizations that have returning citizens, women in transition, youth families in crisis, or people who have been historically unheard, we cannot demand transparency from people while building environments that do not feel safe enough for the truth. And I'm going to go there. People who have lived through trauma, rejection, incarceration, poverty, betrayal, and systemic harm do not always enter a room believing that their voice matters. And if leaders are not educated on these things, community leaders must become the architects of dignity, not rescuers, not saviors, and not performers of comparison, but literally leaders that architect dignity along with everything else.
Yeah. Yeah. What I would say, thank you for that. My closing thought, I'm thinking people don't stay because organizations are perfect. Nobody's perfect, but they will stay because they believe they matter.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the most important thing. So I have this question for the audience. What is one thing every leader can do this week to help employees feel more valued and supported? Make sure you put your answers in the comments. And what we're going to do, we hope that as we come to the end of today's program, we want to thank each and every one of you for spending your time with us. We hope today's conversation has provided valuable insights that you can immediately apply within your organization, your leadership journey with your team and with your team. So,
well, we really want everyone to remember leadership is not simply about managing people. It's about inspiring people. It's about creating environments where individuals can thrive, perform at their best, and contribute meaningfully to a shared vision and a shared purpose.
Yeah, remember through the lens of IO psychology and positive psychology, we know organizations will flourish when leaders intentionally invest in people, culture, well-being, and performance. The most successful organizations are those that understand that human potential is their greatest competitive advantage.
Yes, we encourage you to take one key insight from today's discussion and put it into action this week. Don't just, let this breeze by. Small intentional changes often create extraordinary results over time.
Yep. Be sure to follow TCS Consulting LLC on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube for future episodes, leadership resources, and upcoming guest experts. If today's discussion sparked ideas for your organization, we'd love to continue the conversation. Whether you're looking for that executive coaching, leadership development, organizational consulting, keynote speaking, strategic HR guidance, or customized training, we're here to help leaders and organizations build stronger cultures and achieve lasting results. You can connect with us through TCS Consulting LLC or our businesses. Jacqueline, you want to tell them where they can connect with you at?
Sure, absolutely. You can connect with me, and we'd love to hear from you. Just don't hesitate to reach out for us. And you can connect with me through LinkedIn. That's the best place that you can. I am Dr. Jacqueline L. Brown. You can connect with me on LinkedIn. And also look for some of the on LinkedIn, some of our letters that we write, some of the information that we put out there, and you will find it to be extremely valuable.
Yeah. You can connect with me, Dr. Robin R. Hughes, with R. Hughes and Associates on LinkedIn and at rhughesassociates.com. We actually transform leadership culture and workforce challenges into strategic business advantages through executive HR leadership powered by industrial organizational psychology. And remember, your leadership has the power to transform lives and organizations. Thank you for joining us on Leadership and Organizational Development Live, brought to you by TCS Consulting. Until next time, thank you for joining us.